Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today I have a very intense, terrifying, and interesting encounter to share with you. Before we get into it, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and my merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. The links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below, my merch displayed directly under that video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1, 2, and 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeffrey Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, the links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe, click the like button, and please leave a comment. It really does matter, and it helps. And now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's get on with today's upload. Shall we? Tonight's first encounter is an encounter that I have heard a while ago, and I was fortunate enough to speak with the individual maybe twice after the encounter happened. He is very dedicated to the field of cryptozoology, just like Tim Coonbo Baker. This gentleman that this encounter happened to has dedicated a huge portion of his life to cryptozoology. And it is a very fascinating encounter, along with terrifying, but it really, he really noticed the surroundings and everything that happened because of being a researcher and dedicating so much time. So let's get into Ronald Murphy Jr.'s encounter. I have tried to get him to come on. He is super busy individual. Last time we talked, he was, I think, in Pennsylvania getting ice cream. And I was actually ecstatic when he gave me permission to share this encounter 2.5 years ago via Facebook Messenger. So let's get into it. This is a true story. It may seem like a work of fiction, strange and illogical in its structure and content. But I assure you these events actually happened. Like every good horror story, this one too has a monster. In this case, it involves something known colloquially as the Dogman. It is an ambiguous creature that is anthropomorphic in shape but gives the initial impression of being somewhat canine. In short, the Dogman is an enigma. This is not a new cryptid in the paranormal universe. Indeed, the notion of the Dogman goes back to at least the Pleistocene, if not further. It serves as a quintessential boogeyman, something immediately recognizable, yet grotesquely brutish in shape and behavior. The Dogman is, in essence, the stuff of nightmares. The Dogman straddles two worlds, blurring the line between man and beast. Mankind has always been preoccupied with the notion of transformation, of moving one state of being to another. It is part of human nature to marvel at the natural world and to fear it. There is a healthy sense of reverence hardwired into humanity's psyche toward the forest and those things that go bump in the night. And the concept exists even today. This is why researchers, such as myself, set out into the woods and the remaining wild places and attempt to track down conundrums such as those known as the Dogman. We want to get to the truth that lies in the shadows. I consider myself a cryptozoologist. I'm educated in various concentrations and experienced with the workings of the natural world and in the ordered chaos within human imagination. Now, this doesn't mean that every time I venture out into the forest I find evidence of a monster. Indeed, I am blessed with such a healthy share of skepticism that I often go out not actually believing in the quarry I seek. However, I am also knowledgeable enough to know that something is going on out there, and has been for a very long time. In the ancient tales told by indigenous tongue, and in the modern eyewitness accounts, there are frighteningly similar reports of something like a dogman. And this is why I still head out into the vast reaches of the pine forests and the swampy bottomlands. But because I am an academic researcher trained in the disciplines of anthropology and archaeology, most of my investigations are carried out in the library. As I sifted through decade-old reports of hair-covered dog-like creatures prowling about on two legs, and as I reread eyewitness testimony of areas where such creatures have been seen, I pinpointed an area that seemed to be a prime location for an elusive creature such as the Dogman to hunt without much human interference. I ventured out at around 9 p.m. on a cold fall night. The night was hideously dark. My flashlight scanned the leaves that were orange and red but still lingered on the trees. I was well off the beaten path, and any nuisance of light pollution was obscured by October's cloud cover, but this location was the rumored haunt of the Dogman. So I zippered my coat against the chill and set out down a path that twisted under a hill, on which an abandoned cemetery glowered forlornly through the rustling tree limbs. Dogman is a cryptid often associated with the abode of the dead, with a lineage stretching back to Anubis and its ubiquitous presence in Egyptian funerary rites. However, this creature is also frequently seen, even to this day, prowling around Indian burial mounds and on grave sites in Native American reservations. From the point of folklore, this area was the ideal site for this creature to be found. But our Dogman has always been a creature of the liminal regions, that ephemeral threshold between this world and the world of the other. And out here, on this sullen trail that carved its way through the autumn forest, I felt as if I were hopelessly adrift in this space between worlds. As I swept the woods with my night vision camera, I was struck with an incredible feeling that I wasn't alone out here. I saw no animals through my eyepiece. No squirrel rustled through the leaves. No rabbit stirred the stillness. No. It was something else. Light anomalies seemed to follow me along the darkened path, nearly indiscernible in the fall night, but I could plainly see the pinpoints of unmistakable living light flitter through my lens. Little soft glows that darted and danced in the twisted undergrowth that lined the path, occasionally skipping out of the tangles and illuminating the trail. Even after my eyes adjusted to the night, I could see the illuminations without electronic aid. But I ventured onward, following the lights that moved forward, leading me further afield. Then I came to the long-abandoned railroad bridge that spanned a river that flowed lugubriously like a black ribbon in the valley. The little lights that had accompanied me now left me as the woods halted at the bridge. In the center of the bridge, I felt utterly exposed. If I were being hunted, I was now vulnerable. There was nowhere to run, and in the stark nakedness of the bridge, there was certainly no place to hide. The rather soothing electronic glow of the camcorder which I carried suddenly seemed to have its energy inexplicably drained, The battery light suddenly flickered on above me. The sky that enclosed the world in its inky embrace seemed to spark with a static electricity reminiscent of the electricity produced when you pull the blankets from the bed. Something was happening to the world around me. Suddenly, a visceral urge shuddered my body. I knew instinctually that I had to get out of where I was. I must get back into the confining woods and make my way to my car, parked nearly 1.5 miles away. At this point, it was not a choice. It was an imperative drive to stay alive. I turned. Behind me, the trail disappeared as it was swallowed by the gaping void of the woods. But immediately, as I turned, my eyes widened in trepidation. There, where the trail plunged into the interminable abyss of the forest gullet, a light of living intensity sparked to life, shimmering and sputtering like a contained Roman candle suspended in air. I immediately called out, knowing rationally that there must be a person behind it. My mind worked with the information before me, struggling to process it intellectually. It must be a person. What else could it be? I glanced into my night vision camera eyepiece. There was nothing there. The light was gone as quickly as it had come. And there was no person on the trail. Unnervingly, my battery icon in my camera was flashing an urgent SOS, begging to be recharged. It was as if the light that manifested before me used nearly all the remaining battery in my camera to power itself to life. Empirically, that made no logical sense. However, cold and shivering from uneasiness, nothing else made better sense. And that gnawing instinct that sent a shiver of compulsion through me to run for my life was much more forceful now. I knew I must get out of these woods. I quickly walked the bridge down towards where the light had ignited. Soon I made it to the tree line, shrouded by the overhanging branches that closed in on either side. I was alone, utterly. The night was empty. Then electricity shivered my body that instilled fear into me. I felt as if I were being watched. I also had a startling realization that I was being hunted. My quick walk became a trot until I found myself fumbling into the darkness at such a pace that my heartbeat pounded in my ears. My face stung as branches slapped my cheeks, my feet tripping over roots and through brambles as I veered from the trail in absolute darkness. Soon I realized I would inevitably stumble and fall. Every primal instinct in my civilized brain screamed, ensuring me that if I fell, I would be pounced on. Something in the night was stalking me. Then something inexplicable happened. Telling you this now seems rather difficult to believe, but I assure you of the veracity of this event. Off to my left, out in the woods and higher up, as if a person called out from the cemetery on the hill, I heard my name called. "Ron," it said. The voice was androgynous and undefinable. It was a quick gasp, yet stark in immediacy. And it was an urgent call. Instantly and hard to my left, something stirred in the twisted brush and in the littered leaves that covered the forest floor. On the other side of the trail, something was moving closer, stalking. I could hear its breath, the night wet air in its mouth, as the stick snapped under its weight. I realized with unmitigated terror that I could see what was there. It was as if the synapses in my brain fired to produce an image of a creature that I knew was part of my collective unconsciousness. It was primal and bestial. It was the same menace that pursued the human species since we first walked upright out of the African savanna. It was a dogman. My brain constructed the creature, drawing it out of the memories locked in my DNA. It was huge, hulking. I could see each step it took was on paws that were more like hands. Its snout was lined with rows of needle-like teeth. Its nose smelled the air, pulling my scent out of the cacophony of odors that filled the woods. And those eyes, they were eyes of a nightmare because they were the causes of nightmares since our genesis. the red eyes narrowed, with acuity seeking me out. But I knew it was there, and it knew it as well. The little voice that called my name alerted me not only to the direction of the path that led to my car, it also shook me to attention. The Dogman may be a part of our evolutionary journey, a clever, self-aware creature that still stalks the civilized world, preying upon us, but we have an intelligence that lifted us out of the jungle. I backpedaled, looking through the viewfinder of my night vision camera, toward where the creature stalked in the darkness. The battery, which had been dangerously low, now was reading that it still had over half its power. I quickly spun the camera around, finding the trail in the blackness of the night. Then I slowly followed the trail, keeping the night vision trained on where the Dogman lurked. I could hear it snarling, its breath wet and anxious, but it never left its hiding place. It remained concealed in the thicket. Even when I finally made it to my car and locked the doors before turning the key, I knew the creature was still crouched over in the forest, its eyes red, scanning the path, waiting for prey. In reviewing the video evidence, I could see the little points of light were captured. So too was the light that ignited so brilliantly when I was out on that bridge. I realized that it was that light that drew me back into the woods. Why? Did the light have an intelligence? Did it know there was a creature hunting in the woods? Other reports associated with the Dogman have occasionally reported strange lights. Is the Dogman interdimensional? And are the lights the visual evidence of portals opening? I'm not sure, but the lights did coincide with the appearance of the creature. And what about the voice that called my name? It didn't appear on the film. That was my own little experience that cannot be shared. It was personal and poignant. The sounds of the creature prowling in the brush can be heard as well, but without that voice, I am convinced I would have been pounced on from behind, blindsided by this predator. I feel that I would have been another missing person case without this voice, but this time I made it out of the woods. I had encountered the Dogman, and I survived. Now, when I first read that encounter and asked Ron for permission to read that on the channel 2.5 years ago, it really blew me away. The intelligence of his writing, the intelligence of him being aware of the surroundings around him completely, but also the intelligence to accept different theories. See, at the end, he had talked about evolution and the Dogman possibly being interdimensional, which a lot of researchers, it's one or the other. Very seldom do you find a researcher that can really look at kind of both or all sides of theories. And he did. He did that because he's an intelligent person. And I think that's probably the best way to go about researching. I take that view when I'm sitting in my studio. Now, when I say sitting in here, I'm not just recording. I am constantly reading. Constantly. 16 hours a day. Sometimes longer. I get 4 hours of sleep a night. There's a book written by Danny Van Drimeny that really blew me away when I read it. It was a light went off. And I want to share some key points with you from that book. That book is called Them and Us: How Neanderthal Predation Created Modern Humans. Every human culture has believed in the existence of other beings, monstrous humanoids, sapient but inhuman. They have gone by different names: boogeyman, bugbear, cyclops, giant, Jotun, ogre, Anye, troll, yeti, Bigfoot, Dogman, and more. But they are always feared lurkers in the shadows, threats to the clan, tribe, or hearth. Dungeons and Dragons didn't create these monsters, and despite ongoing controversies, they don't represent anything modern. Humanity's legendary heroes have been fighting these monsters since time immemorial. The real question is why? Why does every civilization have similar myths? Why does every culture have legends of monstrous humanoids, and why are they always depicted as fearsome and dangerous? Because legends are real. The heterodox view, which just means not conforming to the orthodox view or mainstream. Let us consider Danny Van Drimmeny's view. Van Drimmeny agrees with the mainstream that Neanderthals were driven to eventual extinction by war with Homo sapiens. Where he parts way with mainstream is in his assessment of what Neanderthals were like. Van Drimmeny shows Neanderthals were apex predators. Analysis of isotopes in the Bone College has shown that Neanderthals' diet was 97% meat. They were estimated to have eaten 4.1 pounds of fresh meat a day. Ample evidence exists to show that they used stone-tipped wooden spears to hunt. From the bones littering their caves, we know Neanderthals hunted woolly mammoth, giant cave bear, woolly rhino, bison, wolves, and even cave lions, the most dangerous and lethal animals on Earth. Neanderthals were cannibals. A number of Neanderthal sites reveal bones have been cut and cracked open to extract marrow. While this hypothesis was initially rejected, a recent find at El Sidrán in Spain revealed numerous Neanderthal skeletons with the unmistakable marks of butchery by cannibals wielding hand axes, knives, and scrapers. Neanderthals had more robust bones and heavy musculature than Homo sapiens. They weighed 25% more. They were so heavily muscled that their skeletons had to develop extra thick bone. One of the most characteristic features of Neanderthal was its exaggerated massiveness of their trunk and limb bones. All of the preserved bones suggest a strength seldom attained by modern human. Quoting paleoanthropologist Eric Trinkus, a healthy Neanderthal male could lift an average NFL linebacker over his head and throw him through a goalpost. Unquote. Neanderthals also evolved extremely thick skulls, postcranial hyper-robustity, that protected them in close quarter confrontation with prey. They also had kyphosis, which hunched backs that gave them a distinct profile and gait. Neanderthals' teeth were twice as large as a human teeth. According to 2008 anthropologist research, their mouths could open much wider than a human, enabling them to take extremely large bites. Judging by the size of their jaw, they had a tremendous bite force. Neanderthals evolved in the Ice Age Europe and had specific adaptations to that climate. They had short limbs, larger noses, and a compact torso. Most importantly, they were covered with thick fur. So, since no Neanderthal cadaver survived, this point cannot be proven, but Van Drimmeny points out that every primate except Homo sapien is covered with fur, and that every cold-adapted mammal during the Ice Age had thick fur, including mammals that were hairless in Africa, such as the elephant and the rhinoceros. There is no reason to believe Neanderthals were hairless except for our desire to make them look like us. The only way Neanderthals could survive in the Ice Age without fur was if they made thick protective clothing. Archaeologist Mark White points out, Neanderthal clothing would have needed to be more than a ragged loincloth of popular depiction. Some form of tailoring would have been required, but Neanderthal sites have yielded no evidence of needlecraft. They were not making clothes because they had fur. Neanderthal skulls had extremely large eye sockets, suggesting very large eyes. That, in turn, suggests Neanderthals were nocturnal. However, the large eyes pose a problem. If Ice Age Europe would have presented Neanderthals with blinding sunlight reflected off the Sov, Vendrimini suggests that Neanderthals had vertically aligned slit pupils, which enabled them to use the full diameter of the lens in low light, while shutting out bright light during the day. Nocturnal primates, such as the rhesus monkey and the owl monkey, have large eyes with vertically aligned slit pupils. Vendrimini suggests Neanderthals also had a tapetum lucidum, like a cat, that made their eyes shine in the dark, and had a dark sclera like other primates. Neanderthals had distinct facial prognathism that featured large, broad noses. Vendrimini argues that this suggests the Neanderthal snout with a dog-like nose designed for scent hunting. This was useful during nocturnal raids. Neanderthals did not speak human languages. He quotes in a September 8th talk presented to the American Association of Physical Anthropologists that their large nasal cavities would have decreased the intelligibility of vowel-like sounds, and the combination of a long face, short neck, unequally proportioned vocal tract, large nose made it highly unlikely Neanderthals would have been unable to produce quantal speech. Neanderthals' tongues were also not shaped to speak clearly. Overall, the evidence suggests a creature that spoke with a deep timbre with lots of guttural sounds. In point, the Neanderthal that Vendrimini describes is thus a terrifying creature, a hunched, cannibalistic predator with large, shining eyes, an animalistic snout covered by thick fur, massive muscles built for close combat, hunting at night, with a brutish and guttural voice, and a large mouth with huge teeth and powerful jaws. That, my friend, is a Dogman, or a Sasquatch. Whatever it is, it's been appearing in our myths and legends for thousands of years. It's humans' great enemy. And in his book, Them and Us, he describes why we have our fear of night. Well, because this apex animalistic furry creature was hunting us. The Dogman, the Sasquatch, had been hunting us since the dawn of time. We just became a better fighter eventually. Maybe we beat him because of numbers. Maybe we beat him because of technology. Who knows? But we did. We were almost wiped out to extinction. Humanity just completely almost wiped out. And then we grew back and thought we wiped these beasts out, but we have not. They've been hiding in Mammoth Cave and other mines and caves and this and that. They just want to live, I think. Or do I think that they're interdimensional? I don't know. But it's interesting, and that's why Ronald Murphy Jr.'s experience really encompasses a lot for me. So does Vendrimini's book. You know, he describes with accuracy and scientific facts from anthropology and archaeology that Neanderthal that we know today, like Freddie Flintstone, isn't what was back then. It looked more like a Dogman and a Bigfoot. Just a few genes off of ours. That's scary to think about. If you really think scary, that's scary. We only call them Dogman because they look like a dog. They look animalistic. Why don't we call Sasquatch Monkey Man? Who knows? I do know that we really, as researchers, because everyone is a researcher, I believe. I mean, some people who think of themselves as researchers who, I don't know, start little groups and chit chat and, whatever, they don't consider anyone researchers except themselves. But I'm a researcher. You guys are researching. You spend time listening to encounters. You probably read about them when you find them. We watch whatever shows you can. You probably go into the woods on your own. That makes you a researcher. I don't think that term researcher is just or should just be applied to those people that start these groups of cryptozoology on Facebook or on the web or this and that. They're just pompous pricks that hurt the community. The community needs to be open to all kind of ideas and expressions in this field so we can get the answers we need. Oh, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's upload as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you guys. And be safe. May the Great Spirit watch over us all. May guide us down that path that, we call life.